told, you never slow down, you never grow old. I'm tired of screwing up, tired of going down, tired of myself, tired of this town. Oh my, oh hell yes. You got to put on that party dress and buy me a drink, sing me a song, treat me as a curb, cause I can't stay long. Last dance with Mary Jane, one more time to cure the pain. I feel summer creeping in and I'm tired of this town again.
Alright, everybody, thank you for joining me this beautiful, warm November 8th, 2024, right here in your outpost on the West Coast. And we're celebrating tonight. We feel real good, real happy. I got the music going. This is just going to be a fun Friday night at the workbench. Let me just show you how she came out in terms of the paint job. She's not assembled, she's mocked up. She's still loosey-goosey. So we'll take apart the components, show you what I did, where I had issues, unexpected things like that. And then we're mainly going to concentrate tonight on your outpost on the West Coast. We're going to concentrate on when you ask the customer, how would you like this painted? What paint scheme? What railroad? And keep in mind, decals are getting very, very hard to come by. So if the decal doesn't exist, I can't paint your model for you. You may want to look for someone who can make their own decals or outsource just the decal part only. That's how tough it's gotten. Also parts. If you can't find the readily available parts, detail parts and stuff, your project is not going to go nowhere. So it will never get to the paint process or the painter. So kind of keep that in mind if you guys ever want to send out your models to someone who have it painted in a paint scheme that you have fallen in love with. Track down the decals, and if you can find them, get 2 or 3 sheets. Trust me. And yeah, I know it's extra expense, but if you make a mistake and now you can't find the decals again, now what are you going to do? And also certain parts. If your locomotive had a Worthington feed water heater here and this one doesn't, you're going to have to track down that part. Can't leave it up to the painter, otherwise it'll take years for you to get your model back from the painter. It's just the way this hobby has kind of... A lot of the ease and access we had to different avenues in terms of fixing up our locomotives, our models and stuff, have gone. Those doors have closed. I'm sure they'll open down the road. With 3D printing, you know, the sky's the limit. However, I don't work with plastic, so 3D printing would not work with me. I only work with brass. But if you just want to replace that little part there with a 3D printed part, even though it's plastic, and have it applied to your brass model, you're the customer. And if you can provide it and let the painter know or the builder, they'll be more than happy to do that for you. It's just interesting, the 12 years or so I've been away from the hobby, how much has gone away. But the number one is definitely the decals. That's actually kind of huge. I ain't gonna lie to you guys. Let's put the music over here on the side.
Hey, it's me.
So like I said, we're just having fun tonight. No big deal. No script. No plan on where this video is going, how long, how short, how quick it's gonna be, or anything like that. It's just let's kill the music. It's just a fun night. We'll show off the model. We'll enjoy her together. We all remember how she looked when she came in, and she's coming along great. Now the customer, particular owner of this particular model here, for those of you guys new to the channel, what we're doing here, this has been a full restoration project series build of a very, very rare and hard to find model from the very, very beginnings of the old scale hobby itself. the two rail side anyways. This particular model here is about 90, maybe a little bit older, 90 years old. She had some issues. We took care of that. Gave her a new paint job. Runs great. And the customer requested, let me bring it up on the computer real quick. Customer requested, and I'm sure he's got his heart set on this particular, how can we maximize this? I guess we can't. All right, let's do it like that. I guess he's got his heart. Let's kill the lights again. This particular paint scheme right here. So, like I said, the biggest challenge will always be locating the decals. Now, no one can freehand that particular paint scheme right there. It's a 440, just like our Ed Alexander model here. It's slightly different, but the customer said, no problem. He understands it, but this is a paint scheme that I guess he has fallen in love with. So I told him, look, let me see what I can do in terms of kit bashing decals together, using decals from other segments of the modeling world, hopefully playing around. And I think I could cobble something together for him. It's probably not going to be a problem. The huge problem in this particular paint scheme, for me anyways, actually for any modeler, any painter, because these things have to be perfect. Otherwise, as the locomotive runs down the track, if one is slightly off kilter or all of them just slightly off kilter, it's going to look ridiculous when it runs down the track because they're all going to be moving in different directions. And that's because this particular real locomotive here has its rims, okay, like a pinstripe, running around the outer rim and the inner rim and around the end of the axle. That's 3 rings. That's even more rings than the planet Saturn. So the first 2 wheels have that. So each one has to be perfect. Can you imagine that? All right. That's a handful. Each one has to be perfect because if one is slightly off, as the locomotive runs down the track, it's going to look odd. It's going to look like, you remember those circus clown cars that had one wheel kind of offset to the other, so when it went down the road there in the circus and all the clowns jumping around, the kids clapping and laughing and stuff, the wheels will go up and down like that. Well, that's kind of the effect you would get in a not so exaggerated model. However, it's a brass heirloom to the owner, and I would not attempt it because I can't do it by hand. The person who can do these by hand would be a very, very talented and gifted individual. But you got to do that to the front pony truck wheel and then the back pony truck wheel. It's also got the same thing going on with its drivers. Keep in mind, we only have 2 drivers on each side, so that is a relief in itself. But you got the ring going around the outside tire, which the outside rim on real locomotives, you'll hear it referred to as tire. Just so anyone new watching this hobby, if you hear me say tire, that's what I mean. It's these big wheels here are actually 2 parts. It's the actual wheel or driver and the tire, the steel rim that gets fitted over it. It's done for wear and stuff like that, maintenance. And then you got pinstripes on each spoke. That's not a problem. But you got another ring inside the small inner part of the wheel or driver. I'm not sure, you can't tell by this picture because the side rods are in the way, but I'm not sure if the axle has an outer circle also. That's a lot of circles that have to be perfect, so when the train runs down the track at speed or slowly or quickly, everything is straight and it'll look pretty. If they're all over the place, each one of those wheels, and as a side, it's going to be just a big distraction to the eyes. And instead of admiring the beautiful model that they're watching run down the track that's been restored, they're going to be looking at all these things going in different directions as the train runs off the track, and that's not the purpose here. The paint scheme And all the associated lettering and colors and pinstripes and all that good stuff should complement the model and vice versa. Now that paint scheme and that model there are just gorgeous. I can see why John fell in love with this paint scheme. So we're in luck. I was at work yesterday. I just decided to go on the Microscale website. Let me bring it up. Let me bring it up here. I know I should have done. Here, let me pause this. We'll be right back. Alrighty, we're back. Microscale has the decals for that particular paint scheme that the owner of this locomotive is interested in. And they're right here. Let me get out of your way as I bring them up. It's actually a big decal set, so it's a big deal. There's a lot of decal pieces to this particular paint scheme. So it required Microscale to print them on 3 decal sheets. Those of you in the hobby who've done the decaling before and use Microscale all the time, just to hear that a particular paint scheme takes 3 decal sheets from Microscale, that's also a mouthful. And you all know what I'm talking about. Let's bring them up. Let's bring them up again. And let's blow them up. There's the first sheet right there. So there you go, John. We have the lettering in Pennsylvania in 3, 4, 5 different sizes and lengths. Lengths. Oh, my English. Lengths. Lengths. And all sorts of little data, numbers, and so we can do our tender. That's no issue there. You also have these boxes, pinstripes in the shape of boxes. That would be what goes under your locomotive cab right here. It'd just be a pinstripe box, and in the middle you put the gold railroad Roman numerals, which in this particular case would be Pennsylvania 1223. Let's go back to decal sheet. Now I'm talking out loud. I'm kind of talking to the owner of the locomotive too. You guys are just along for the ride on a happy Friday night. You guys can see the process of getting one of these nice and painted and decaled and out the door. And it's a lot more to it than meets the eye sometimes. Alrighty, here we go. Pennsylvania Lines, that's another font. But we can't use that. Ours is Pennsylvania Railroad, or just Pennsylvania by itself. Right here on this side, you have all the curves, the pinstripes, the different colors. Same thing here. This would be for the tender. The tender on the real one would have 2 or 3 different pinstripes and colors, I believe, that would run on the outside of the tender, giving it kind of like an outside frame or a box. So the inside is dark and black, and that's where you put your Pennsylvania decals in. Now doing that by hand would be brutally hard, but I could do it, but only on the straight sections. The curved sections would be something else, and that would be a huge endeavor also. So everything about this paint job, although it seems fun or real easy, a couple pinstripes. If you want to do it right and you don't have access to decals, it's going to be pretty brutal. It's just the way it is. In our case here, we have the decals. So these particular keystones here, these would go, and along with these information boards or number boards here, I've seen pictures where the front of the locomotive on our smoke box door, there you go, would have that circular number board they put on the front of these, which we're going to have to do that to this here. And that keystone would be in the center, and that square number board, wherever it's for, would go underneath. I've seen that on some of the pictures, so I guess it was dolled up that way for a certain reason in brief periods of its history. We'll talk to the owner about that. But normally you would see this locomotive, your older pictures and videos, or in modern day pictures. She would have that round number board with only her number in there. And the outside rim would be pinstriped in some sort of gold color, which we have those also in the decal, and it wouldn't have that square underneath there. Now, it has a different type pilot, where these are normally flues. Railroad companies and railroads would make their own pilots and use flues for these up and down steel bars or metal bars. They're actually hollow tubes, and they're bolted on the end up here and bolted down here. In this particular case, the real one has, I want to show it to you guys, has, look at that. It doesn't have the up and down metal bars. Rather, it has steel slats, probably strap iron of some sort, but it's got metal straps going horizontally from one end to the other, from the left to the right. And those are also pinstriped. And now I told John I can cut apart, tear into his original pilot here, and make him that right there. That's no problem. I can do that. However, John was hesitant, and I don't blame him. We're trying to keep the Ed Alexander as original as possible. So in this particular case of the pilot, the cowcatcher, the plow, whatever you want to call it, we're going to use artistic license and just skip that part. We'll include the other pinstriping here. Let's see what else we can cheat with here. Let's get some more light on here. So we're going to have to put pin straps on each one of those spokes on both drivers. And our decal sheet provides you all sorts of sorry, I didn't have the camera pointed at the screen, but provides with all sorts of different color and thickness stripes: black, silver, white, yellow, gold, a combination of different ones where they're put together. So we'll be able to put striping on each one of those spokes using those decal sets there. So that's not an issue. But what will be an issue, and I will not be able to attempt it in any shape, way, or form, would be these circles. These rings that go on the outside, on the inside here, and again around the little axle ends. I'm telling you, that's, like we said earlier, that's more rings than the planet Saturn has. So, and also, it starts here with the front, has the same thing, outer pinstriping, inner, and then another inner. So a lot of pinstriping, and like I said earlier, if you freehand it or you kind of figure it out, if it's not perfect as she's running down the track, you're going to start getting that weird, you know, one will be going up or down, the other steady, and it will detract from the visual of why you're there watching in the first place, is to see the model run. Now you're focusing on this jig of stuff, like, and the first thing's going to pop into someone's head is going to be like, oh man, okay. But also on the pins, we got to paint the cab roof some sort of that Penzi red. A particular model, the 1223, has a second set of drip. You got the drip bar that runs along the drip sill, or whatever you want to call it. It runs along the top of the windows of the cab, keep from water going into the crew compartment. But it also has a second one that kind of runs like at an angle, kind of like this. And then it's painted still black on this side, but on the inside of, we've got one on this side and one on the other side, it's painted Pennsylvania, that red, which is interesting. I actually like the way they do that. And once again, we explained all the, that particular shot. Let's bring it up again. I want to show you something real quick. Now I'm talking out loud because the owner's watching this, and our brains are going to be working together to kind of figure out where we're going to go. But you guys are watching because I have the camera on for you guys. Just get an idea of the steps, and a lot of brain work goes into doing one of these paint jobs, especially a custom one, kind of like this. Now look at that tender. Okay, not only do you have the box that I mentioned earlier, and you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 set of different color and different thickness pinstripes. Different color, yeah. There's silver, there's yellow, and there's red. And these little stripes that go across. They form a box. Pennsylvania goes in the middle, but you also have curved sections, and it continues on the front end of the tender and on the back end. It's a complicated paint scheme. It's a beautiful paint scheme. The tender can be done no problem with the decal sheet that Microscale provides. It still sells to this day. And once again, I guess now we know why Microscale had to use 3 sheets to offer that one set. There's another little box right here. There's actually one around the door. We're going to have to paint some sort of graphite gray or smokebox gray all the way back to in this particular case on our Ed Alexander 440, we would have to paint smokebox gray all the way to, well, all the way to that second boiler band. We could just do it to the first boiler band and she'll look just as fine. It's not quite all the way back to the second boiler band. It's actually about right here. But things we got to play with, kind of figure out what is pleasing to the eye, stuff like that. And something I'm noticing right now, it's actually not a big deal because ever since the end of Steam, in terms of model makers, that particular photograph right there, you can see that Pennsylvania had kind of like it wasn't quite black, it had green to it, and that particular photograph shows that green very well. It's a very interesting green wherein if you're looking at it under certain lighting conditions, the green does jump through the black, like in that photograph there, and in many other instances, it just appears black. It's probably one of the most fascinating railroad colors I've ever been amazed by since I first got into the hobby. And I've done a few like that, and it's actually kind of one of my favorite paint schemes. So that's something we'll talk to the owner about. If it's something where he wants me to sneak in a hint of that green, repainting this at that stage would be no problem because you're just painting over what you got already. Stripping and painting, it's a little bit more work, but that's actually no problem for me. I'm kind of set up for that. So there you see. So I'll talk to the owner. Whatever we figure out, we'll share with you guys right here on YouTube, since this is a collaboration by all of us. And okay, let's get away from that decal sheet and just show you how everything came out on our Ed Alexander 440. Now she's still in her state. It's a semi-gloss coat. I put it on there so we can apply decals and stuff. And then I don't really do gloss, and I stick and I tend to stay away from just plain flat black. So I do some semi gloss, straight out of the bottle or the can. If I decanter the can, I kind of play with what the model is, and in my eyes where she should go to show off her features. In this particular case here, Definitely not going to be a shiny gloss, and definitely it's not going to be flat black. It's going to be like kind of in between. Let me show you all the different little components here. So painting this was a breeze. No issues whatsoever. Just it was a real fun experience. I can't wait to see what paint scheme we eventually figure out and decide on what we're going to be using. And let's see here. Let's back off a little bit. Let's show off our boiler a little bit. We'll show off the engineer side now. And you guys remember that front area there that was all destroyed and banged up? Check out the way she looks now. Kind of give her back some of her dignity. And you guys have been amazing, man. I look at my videos, I look at my stats, I look at the number of views and people who hit the like buttons, new subscribers, or just people who comment. That is a huge pick me up for me. Also, why I'm doing this, I've mentioned this in the past, but for you new viewers here, I'm more than happy to restore early part of old scale history here. This is my legacy I'm leaving towards the grand, beautiful hobby of old scale two-rail brass. And as I move on in life and get older and move on to other things, hopefully I left my mark on some beautiful historical pieces, beautiful pieces for real close dear friends of mine. I used to do a lot of painting and work for the museum down in San Diego, and for the club equipment, but also for its individual members. And I would do that for free, just out of love for the brotherhood we had down there once upon a time, way back in the 90s. And my videos I'm doing here, I'm leaving that to promote the hobby. Never want to see this hobby die and go away. Now, some of you guys have contacted me about doing a little bit kind of like minor work. I would be more than happy to talk to you about that and let you know what I have and what kind of time available, time constraints I have. And if it makes you happy to have your favorite piece dolled up again and running, then it makes me happy. And hopefully some viewers that are watching these, new viewers, are gonna say, hey, you know what, I'd really love to join the old scale brass hobby. I'm gonna start buying some pieces and get into it. And in that way the hobby will be gone, but the hobby lives forever, and hopefully the models live forever. So let's go ahead and show you guys. By the way, the writing on the side of those wheels say AAR 1936, and they say All Industries, AUEL, Irwin, Pennsylvania. Owl, I don't remember how you pronounce that, but he was a fellow that used to offer wheel sets, trucks, all in white metal castings and stuff, freight car parts and stuff like that. And how you can tell when you have one of his piece of equipment, his usually comes with these ribbed backed instead of flat wheels. See those ribs in back there? And those are for cooling purposes. That was the idea anyways. Modern wheels don't use that anymore, but that's what that says. There's stamped on each one of the wheels. This is AAR 1936 Owl. I don't know how you pronounce that, but we used to see them at all the shows. We used to see them in Indiana. We used to see them in Chicago, especially, and even out here at No Scale West. Owl Industries. Irwin, Pennsylvania. Oh, that's stamped on the side right there. You guys have some incredible eyesight and can actually see that. I don't think I can get any closer. Now, I might be the fun Florentino Rebuilding Company, but I'm not the amazing Florentino Rebuilding Company where I can get my camera to focus in on something so tiny like that. But I'm sure you guys have some of these wool sets in sitting around your workbench also. Anyway, so you guys know what I'm talking about. But anyways, our tender came out fantastic. No issues whatsoever. Tender came out really nice. Ready for her decals. Beautiful hand soldered, hand put together way back in 1934, 35, 36, 36-ish, something like that. But now I'm handling her. And you know, we got everything spinning nice, cleaned up everything. I had to hog out. In case you guys are still having shorting issues on your Ed Alexander, and I was particularly having an issue, and I showed you guys when I first started taking apart this thing, because this thing back here has wires that crisscross in the shape of an X. And I was having a lot of wires that had the insulation burned off. And this Bakelite circuit board here, quote unquote circuit board from 1934-ish. It also had a lot of black where you could see arcing had blackened portions of it. See that? Wasn't able to clean it all off entirely. What happened and why, maybe that was a frustration to an owner somewhere along the road. He did everything and this thing kept shorting. Is this thing sits and drops down like that. That thing sits right on top of this frame. This frame is hot. It's the same polarity as the locomotive. So, and the motor, the wires underneath were of the opposite polarity. So I noticed that right away, and I go, oh wow! So I was just gonna put a piece of tape or a piece of cardstock or something like that. I go, nah, I ain't gonna do that. So I went in there. I actually hogged out about an eighth of an inch because it's thick to begin with. Eighth of an inch worth of brass because I didn't want that issue to ever come back, no matter what. And that shorting out problem that this thing had, where I couldn't figure it out, went away once I did that. So just a tip, maybe if might help you if you're having the same issues. And one good thing about this hobby is everybody is more than happy to help out if they can, when they can, especially when they find out you have the same problem and they came up with a solution. And there's your trucks. So there you go, guys. I think that's going to be it for tonight. We all kind of got a little Friday night fun here at the workbench. We're just goofing around. I just said, you know what, I'm going to set up the camera and shoot a little quick video. So I'll be talking with the owner. When he comes back he's taking care of some business. And when he comes back, we'll get in touch. We have great rapport. His enthusiasm is off the charts. And he reminds me of each one of us. Trust me. and I'm tickled pink to be part of that enthusiasm. So we talked about that one day. You know, we were out. I was in the back patio. We were on the phone. He called me. We were talking about something. And I told him, hey, John. And he's like, what? Florentino Rebuilding Company? I go, hey, man, can you believe that what we're doing right now? Go back to 1934 to Ed Alexander's shop. And in the morning, the guys are showing up for work. Ed Alexander's got the New York Times because the Yankees played the night before. It was a wild game. They're all talking about the game. And just like we're talking right now. And he goes, yeah, that's right, huh? I go, yeah. Back in 1934, they did that when they were putting this guy here together, getting it ready to sell. And I go, the only difference, John, is back then when Ed Alexander and his crew came into the shop, you know, one came in smoking a pipe and the other one came in with his straw pulled up in his Ford Model T or Model A with a straw hat, and they all had ties and coats and probably had hairstyles like Teddy Roosevelt or something. He starts laughing. I go, yeah, but the difference now, me and you talking on the phone, we're probably both in shorts and t-shirts and flip-flops. One end of the, you on the East Coast, me on the West Coast, and we're just laughing and talking. And he laughed and I laughed. And um, think about that for a second. There's no difference in what these gentlemen, what these boys did back in 1934 in their shop as they're reading about the big game and what we do in the year 2024. It's the exact same thing. Wow, man, that's fantastic. You can teleport me and John Lyon to Ed Alexander's shop on this day here in 1934, and we'll all introduce ourselves, and then we'll sit down and we'll just, like, we won't even skip a beat, and we'll start talking about roads and about this thing right here. Like if time and distance, the space-time continuum was no big deal. And you guys, each one of you, and I see you, young lady, hiding over there. All of us were exactly the same. And you all take care. Have an amazing 3-day weekend, Veterans Day this Monday. Thank our veterans and for their amazing service they have done for this wonderful, incredible nation. And you all take care and have a blessed week. Bye.